Welcome to Two Floaties, One Wobbler. This is a podcast where we talk about North Carolina Super Smash Bros. Melee. We delve into local results, community issues, stuff about the game, and go on tangents and pretty much talk about whatever else we want to talk about. I'm Graham, aka Hi-Fi, and I am super excited to watch Hungrybox versus Army in a couple minutes, actually.
I'm Arun, aka Zent. I'm not excited to watch that set, but this past Friday I had a bracket where I played a Pikachu, Luigi, Samus, and Doc all in the same run.
And my tag is Sharks, and I just signed up to be the streamer or recorder for Smash Sisters at Super Smash Con 2018. So that should be a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
Are you ready for that stream chat experience?
Yeah, the whole thing is, I don't even know if I'll be able to stream. When I did PM last time, there was no internet, and you can't really... Well, at least for PM, I couldn't really ask SmashCon to be like, hey, give me internet. But maybe I can do that with Smash Sisters, so we'll see how that is.
Might be time to hire some new mods then, because, you know...
Yeah, for real. Yeah, that will be very interesting. We'll see how that goes. Speaking of streaming, I do need to mention to the people out there that I do have a class every week on a random weeknight based off the semester. Unfortunately, we actually just received word that this semester's classes are on Monday nights. So I do need to let people out there know that I probably won't be able to stream ECGs on Monday for about the next 5 or so months until probably December. Starting in August, the next couple I'll be able to do, but I will have a bit of a hiatus, unfortunately, from that point. But if anyone's able to fill in or has anything they want to ask me about it, I'd be more than happy to help them out. But I should be back starting in December for that. And I'd be more than happy to stream any other locals also.
Nice. All right, well, we have a good show for you guys this time around. Not a ton of local results, but we do talk about where the PR race stands right now. And we also had a mailbag where we sent out surveys and got some great responses from people about what they like and don't like about attending Melee tournaments. So stay tuned. All right, it's the local results segment. Since we did a podcast 2 weeks ago, there's not too much to talk about, but instead of that, we'll be doing a mid-season PR update since we're about 2 months into the current PR season. So look forward to that. But to start, we have the 4th East Coast Gaming Tournament, maybe the 5th. Again, there's some indexing issues with how they're numbered. But the big story of this tournament was Papa Squat double eliminating Dash in winners' quarters as well as losers' semis. Michael hasn't really been to a lot lately. He's been on kind of a hiatus, so this is a pretty big statement coming back and picking up 2 good PR wins. Additionally, at this tournament, Prometheus took a game off Dash and a game off Sharks. Didn't win either of those sets or really pick up other huge wins, but that's still pretty impressive for a mid-level player and kind of is a good sign because most of us aren't able to take a lot of games off Sharks. Did you have any thoughts on his play that set or like Ganon Ice Climbers in general?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect going in against him. I knew he had done well against all the other ice climbers. We talked last week about how he's pretty scary in an Arcadian for all the ice climbers that are going to be attending. Right. But I wasn't quite sure how it was going to feel, so I was very impressed by the way it was very obvious he knew what to do in the matchup. In all accounts of neutral, he was doing very well. He really, I thought, outplayed me almost the entire set. I just got a couple more grabs, and that was really just what it was. But I was very impressed, and he's going to be someone I'll have to look out for in the future. It was scary, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it looked scary. Yeah, it seems like he was really kind of in control until you just started grabbing more, which, maybe is the solution for more matchups than just this one.
It is. Colin and I had a discussion that he even mentioned on the commentary of that match where he said, sometimes Ices just need to grab more, and that's all there is to it. And he's right about that.
Yeah. Other than that, at this tournament, not too much else to talk about. I double eliminated Papa Squat, and then Sharks double eliminated me. And yeah. One thing to mention about these East Coast gaming tournaments, though, is I think they're going to start having doubles again, but they're going to do It started at 5:30, so pretty early, and then also have best of 3 all the way through, which is unfortunate, but I think it's better than not having doubles at all. So
Yeah, meaning I probably won't be able to stream it, but I think it's probably better not to have to worry about streaming that because sometimes that makes the single streaming get pretty rough.
right. And really, at a lot of these local tournaments, kind of only grand finals and like maybe winners and losers finals have like interesting double sets. So unfortunately, probably not missing out on too much by streaming it, but I think it will still be $5 entries. So if 8 teams show up, it will count for teams bracket. So let's try to make that happen. Immediately after ECG4, we have Geeks 55. The story of this tournament was Lamb having very, very close sets against Safe. So I'm not exactly sure what happened in the winner's set, but Safe won 2-1. And then in losers finals, they played again, and Lamb was up 2-0. And Safe had to reverse 3-0 him, as well as win 2 games on FD as Fox against Marth, which is particularly difficult to do. And I was just really impressed watching this, not so much his gameplay, but just Safe's mental composure. I think he's one of the best players in North Carolina as far as mentality stuff is concerned, like particularly in-game, because it can be really disheartening to be down 2-0, as we've discussed on this podcast, actually. And especially against someone that really kind of has nothing to lose against you. The skill gap there is pretty big, so no one is surprised at all if Safe kind of just runs over him. But to be down like that and then bring it all the way back, I think is pretty commendable.
Not to mention FD is supposed to be a free win for Marth, so...
Right. And it's not like Lamb just kind of dropped tons of chain grabs or anything. Like, he was getting all of that. It's just that's how much extra work Safe was having to do on top of kind of, getting 0 to death off grabs.
So Lamb was getting conversions off of chain grabs consistently?
Sorry, what?
So Lamb was consistently converting off of his chain grabs?
Yeah, for the most part. Maybe not perfectly, but...
Okay, because FD... I feel like FD people tend... So, I did kind of just say it's supposed to be a free win, but I feel like people romanticize FD because they see Mewtwo King play on that stage, and his chain grabs are, almost always 0 to deaths, but not everyone can do that, and I know some Spacies players, like, SFAT's the notorious example, think that stage actually isn't that bad if you're playing against a Marth who can't consistently chain grab you.
That would make sense. Lamb is also the kind of Marth at his level of play where he's really good at punishing Fox, and that's,
Yeah, I was going to say, he's kind of a punish monster, right? That's kind of what he's known for.
Right. I think I heard someone say that he said he only practices punish game and never really thinks about neutral. I don't know if that's true, but it was attributed to him. So, yeah, Safe is the best active Fox we have right now, I think. So that's... coming that close is pretty impressive. So Lamb ended up getting third at this tournament. On the way to those results, he beat Tiger in winners, quarters. I believe Tiger went secondaries, but I don't know if it was his Puff or his Sheik or what. And then in losers, he beat Twisty in losers quarters, Dash's Falco 2-1 in losers semis, which it is Dash's Falco, but as we've mentioned, that's still by no means a free win or anything. So he picks up a PR win there and then loses to Safe in losers finals. Additionally, we had me versus Safe in winners finals where I took a set there, and then Safe won 2 sets in grands to win the tournament. Again, the mentality thing I mentioned earlier, I definitely think he was just kind of mentally tougher than me, those grand sets, because I felt like I was playing all right, but he really just kind of buckled down and didn't give away anything for free, which made it a lot harder than the winner set where I kind of got some lucky grabs and stuff. But good tournament overall. And then I wanted to talk about doubles because we've had some requests on this show to mention doubles stuff more, which, I'm always happy to talk about. I didn't think there was too much interest in that, but real quickly, just wanted to mention that at doubles at this Geeksboro event, we had Tiger and Twisty over Dash and Duck 3-2 in losers finals. Yes. And this was Tiger's Puff. Tiger actually seems very committed to going all Puff now. I don't know that he's played Ices really in like the last 3 or 4 tournaments. It's been all Puff in singles, all Puff in doubles. And that's a pretty good win. It was Dash's Falco, but it's still Falco Fox, which, in my opinion, a top 3 team in the game, arguably the best team in the game. I don't know if I personally believe that, but I think there's a case to be made for it. And Tiger's Puff kind of held its own. And then, of course, Twisty, I believe, went all Falco. So, shout-outs to them. That's a pretty good win. I think they're going to be teaming more. I know Tiger and Kakame were kind of a static thing for a while. Peyton has been teaming with other people more recently, and I know Tiger plays with Twisty a lot since they both live in Charlotte. So we might see more of that. I love Falco Puff. I think it's a great team, especially once you start getting kind of coordinated rest setups going. So we'll see if they can do that. And then finally, the last tournament in this 2-week period, we had Geeks 56. Safe and GCS both showed up to this, and we got to see them play each other. Safe won Winners Finals and Grand Finals. So we'll talk about the PR implications for that momentarily. But kind of the other big story of this tournament was Duck went on a bit of a run. He was seeded 10th, beats Marklar in Winners round 1, loses to GCS, and then beats Lamb 2-1, Pants 2-1, Jay Willie's Fox 2-0, and then loses to Time Bones in losers semis. So
That's an out-of-state Duck showing right there.
yeah, that is out-of-state prime Hassel for sure. He said that he kind of got lucky in a lot of those sets and didn't feel like he was playing super well, but I watched him against GCS and he looked pretty good. It was just kind of GCS punished him harder, which GCS is going to do pretty much against everyone he plays.
Yeah.
But if Hassel figured out kind of some tighter flowcharts on Falcon Punish stuff, I could see that being a lot closer. And Hassel has beaten Justin before. It's been kind of a while now, like a year and a half maybe, but he's certainly capable of that. So
Also, the ending versus Lamb was really tense, right? He was at like 200% when he finished that game.
oh yeah, he said he lived to like 200% last stock
Phew.
on, I think, Pokemon Stadium. I think, not exactly sure. But yeah, classic Marthritis.
And that's pretty good after we just talked about Lamb doing so well versus Safe. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's very impressive. So, I guess not all Fox mains. Jay Willie's Fox over Tiger's Puff.
Okay, so he is going Fox. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, Jack is, he plays Sheik in doubles, but I think in singles he's going
All Fox.
all Fox all
Cool.
the time.
I like his Fox.
Yeah, his Fox is really, it's getting a lot better too. It's very smart. Doesn't really do a lot of Unga Bunga stuff. So it's kind of just him getting more and more control of the character and comfortable with specific matchup stuff. But yeah, I mean, but Tiger is already getting really good with Puff. So that could also go the other way pretty quickly. I guess that's a sort of up and coming secondaries kind of matchup from players that were formerly PR'd and could get back there again. Who knows? Nothing else too surprising from this bracket. We did have Sway over Lamb in the 8-9 matchup, which I wish that there wasn't a stream this week. That's a matchup that I really would have wanted to see on stream. Lamb was saying after that he just has no idea what to do against Samus. And I think it's great that Sway's going all Samus.
Neither does most of NC, to be honest.
Right. So, yeah, we had that. And then doubles at this tournament, There were only 4 teams, so we played a round robin, but it was 4 like really good teams. We had Mike and Safe, me and Jay Willie, Time Bones Marklar, and then Duck and Tiger. So I'd say 4 like pretty quality teams. Everything was best of 5. We saw Marklar Time Bones over Duck Tiger, and me and Jack reverse 3-0'd Mike and Safe in what was essentially grand finals. It was, the round robin set to determine who wins the tournament. It was really fun playing them. I think Mike and Safe are trying to static because Mike played with Dash a lot, and now that Dash has moved to South Carolina, he needs a new PR level Fox, and he's found a really good one. So looking forward to more of that. I think Fox Falcon is such a good team too. Like, just the kill power is
off the charts.
unbelievable. Yeah. And that's really something that I think is underrated in doubles. Like, there's a lot of characters that you can set up edge guards in singles, and it's sort of a rinse repeat thing where the person off stage doesn't have a ton of options, and it's kind of just a matter of time before they finally die. But in doubles, there's your teammate and the other teammate, and you really can't spend a lot of time sitting by the edge waiting for your opportunity to hit your opponent off again and then rinse and repeat. So having characters like Fox with up smash and Falcon with knee that can just outright kill people is super valuable, I think, because you hit the knee, you hit the up smash, and then you can immediately transition into helping your teammate 2v1ing your other opponent, and you don't really have to do the kind of iterated edge guard thing. So, I mean, that was happening to us a lot. But at the same time, Puff Sheik is a really good team at edge guarding, both like one-on-one and kind of 2v1 stuff. Plus Puff can up throw rest Fox, can get tech chase rest stuff on Falcon, up air rest, up tilt rest. So it was a good set. I'm looking forward to playing them again. And Mike lives in Greensboro now, so I think he's going to be going to Geeks a lot. And he might not enter every week, but I could see him entering doubles every week.
Now, yeah, I was about to say, he just entered doubles, right?
Right. He did not enter singles at this tournament. So, yeah, people should come out to Geeks, play dubs. It's fun. And that's all the local results, really. I mean, today, while we're recording this, there have been 3 tournaments going on that may or may not have the results. We have a house tournament in Raleigh. We have SuperCon, which is already over. Congrats to Time Bones winning as the 14th seed at that, where all the bracket entries were literally first name, last name.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. So shout outs to Colin. That one's definitely not counting.
How do you not come up with a tag? Like, come on, you've got to have some tag you've used in the past somewhere.
I don't know. Like, there have been a few times at locals around here where we've had new people show up, and almost without fail, they just enter as their first name.
It's so interesting. Like, you've never had a gamer tag, never had an Xbox.
I mean, that's how you get tags like IV doing work.
Yeah,
but
or Sharks.
I think my favorite new player tag story is someone shows up and tries to enter as RED Red.
Yeah.
But then someone tells him that's already a player. So he says, oh, just add a D at the end.
It's like, oops.
That was a good one. To be fair, I do think that, yeah, you don't want to get stuck with a dumb tag like Mewtwo King.
I mean, yes, but at least, like, after the first tournament, you can change it. It's not like you've been a player for a year or anything.
That's true. And unfortunately, the people that I'm thinking of that I have seen show up to a tournament and enter as their first name, I haven't yet to see them again. So, fortunately, it might just be kind of a one-of appearance where, John or whoever shows up and then never shows up again. But yeah, you should make tags.
You should have like a tag jar at tournaments where if you show up and you don't have a tag, you just pull something out and that's your tag.
I did that with a doubles team once. In PM, our team, we didn't have a team name, so we called ourselves, that was a randomizer, and we just called each other Team Cheat, was what came out of the randomizer.
I like that.
And we've stuck with that ever since. So
I like the tag jar idea. We could commission Jack Adams to provide some
Oh,
content.
my word. Do we really need any more hot moms or fat peaches around? Though I do like Birkin 2 stocks, or whatever he had a couple weeks ago. I like that one.
Yeah, that one's good. He, I think, has like a notebook of tags that he's just going to enter with whenever he feels like it. So maybe he could contribute some of those to some hapless new players. Who knows? And then the third tournament today is Blue Fox in
Oh yeah, Greensboro.
Greenville.
Oh, Greenville. Yeah.
Yeah. That one is probably the most legitimate of the three, but Jack Adams did say he wanted the house tournament to count for PR, so it's going to. I guess by the time this episode airs, we'll know how that shook out, but for now, we don't. So, because we didn't have too many local results, I wanted to do a mid-season PR update. This is all just what I've come up with from looking at the data. I'm not really speaking for the panel here, but people theme this kind of information, so let's kind of see where everything's at right now. From our current PR, Mike is currently inactive, but as we said, he recently moved to Greensboro, so he'll probably be able to attend enough locals to qualify. GCS is also inactive, but moved back to Raleigh and will likely attend enough locals to qualify. However, we have Zasa inactive and on indefinite hiatus, so pretty strong chance he won't be on the upcoming PR due to inactivity. And then we also have Dash moving out of state. Dash's results as of right now would be good enough to have him PR'd. Probably put him at 5 or 6, but he moved out of state, so he won't be on the upcoming PR. Although all wins on him this season will count as PR wins, and losses to him will not be penalized.
So let me ask something about this then. I know with whenever people are leaving the state, do they have a choice whether they want to be on the next PR if they qualify, or is it like pretty much a flat no if we know that they're leaving mid-season?
So I mean, while I've been on the panel, we haven't officially discussed this, but I think the situation is if they're going to be here for part of the upcoming season, then they can be on the PR.
Okay.
But Alex is, because it wouldn't make any sense to PR someone and then the season in which they are on the PR, it's literally impossible to get a tournament set against them, right?
Sure.
So I think with historic examples include Tizzlefix, Slip and Slide, and then now Dash. We knew Dash was moving this season, but he was PR'd because he was going to be here for 2 months. And even if it had been less time, honestly, probably still would have put him on there because at least if he attends one tournament, then he should count as a PR win as a PR level player.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, another interesting historic example is the last season that Jimmy was active, Red, he asked to not be included on the next PR. So that is also an option that people can have if they know in advance that they're going to be taking a break or just kind of don't want to be PR'd for whatever reason. So, I mean, that's kind of the only time I've ever heard of that happening, where someone specifically requested to not be PR'd. But, yeah, that can also happen. But for now, we have 8 PR players on the current PR who are sort of eligible for the next one. And as it stands right now, if I had to release a list today, again, this is my list, I haven't talked to the panel about it, but I would put Sharks at 1, Safe at 2, Tylenol at 3, myself at 4, and then David at 5. Beyond that, it gets a bit tricky, and so I'll go into some detail about who the other contenders are. But I'm pretty sold on that list right now because Sharks has 1 loss to David, who he is 3-1 against overall, and has won every other set. So that's pretty strong. Doesn't have any data yet against Mike or Safe or GCS, but maybe we'll get some of that in the next month or so.
I hope so. I want to play them.
Especially because GCS is back in Raleigh.
Yep.
So we'll at least get that. Safe and Tylenol is really close right now. Safe has 11 PR wins, no unranked losses, and Tylenol has 13 PR wins, no unranked losses. Tylenol is up 3-2 in the head-to-head, but the quality of Safe's wins are much better. Tylenol has 2 on Sidward, 3 on Timebones, 2 on me, 3 on Dash, 3 on Safe. And Safe has 2 on Timebones, 3 on me, 2 on Dash, 2 on Tylenol, 2 on GCS. And really, I think those GCS wins are what's putting Safe ahead for now.
Other than that, that's very close. That is such a close list. Oh my word.
It is very close. And Tylenol has been kind of inactive for like the last month or so. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, if Chris doesn't go to anything for the rest of the season, then Safe is probably going to have the spot over him. But especially if they play again, I mean, that head-to-head is really interesting. And then seeing how Tylenol will do against GCS, because we don't have any data there, or if one of them could take a set off you, or a set off Mike even. So it's a very tight race. But if I had to pick someone today, right now, I would say Safe is ahead. And then for 4 and 5, me and David is kind of a similar story. I have 6 PR wins and 2 unranked losses, and he has 5 PR wins and 2 unranked losses. I have 2 wins on Timebones, 2 wins on Dash, 1 on Safe, 1 on Tylenol, and he has 1 on Sidward, 1 on Timebones, 2 on Dash, and 1 on Sharks. My unranked losses are Tiger and Twisty, and his unranked losses are Simon and Prometheus. So the reason I would put myself over him again right now is because I'm 2-0 in the head-to-head, but this could also change very easily depending on how the rest of the season goes. But as of like today, I would say that I'd give myself the edge there. So 1 through 5, I think, is pretty solidified. After that, it gets really interesting, and we kind of just don't have enough data to make any conclusive statements, but just to sort of go over who the other big competitors are. So at the bottom of the current PR, we have Timebones and Sidward. Not having great seasons, but kind of not out of the running either. Timebones has 2 PR wins and 11 unranked losses, and Sidward has 1 PR win and 10 unranked losses. The thing about these unranked losses, though, is that they're mostly top 20 players. Very few of them are like what I would consider really bad losses. So they're still in contention. They definitely have to start showing up a little more, getting a few more PR wins and not drop as many sets as they're dropping. But one thing that is helping the two of them is they are attending a lot. I think Timebones currently has the lead for tournaments attended this season. Not just among PR players either. I think period.
That man's a fiend.
Yeah, he's going to a lot. He's competing. It's good to see him. Sidward also attending a lot, not quite as much, but I think among PR players, he is 3rd in events attended, I want to say. So they're still in the running. As far as unranked competitors, CMAC and Taheem are probably the strongest right now. CMAC has 2 wins on Timebones and a win on Dash, and only losses to Chi and Taheem. And he's attended 4 tournaments this season, so he's met the activity requirement. It will be kind of tough to deal with if he doesn't go to anything else this season, because it's sort of a small sample size, not a ton of great wins, but also not a ton of bad losses. So he could kind of squeak in if it's sort of sparse at the bottom of the list again. Taheem has 4 PR wins, 2 on Timebones, 1 on Sidward, 1 on GCS. I think that GCS win is going to end up being really important. Losses to Key, Kakame, Flair, Chi, and David twice. Again, not really awful losses. David's a very strong PR contender. Chi, as we'll see, is kind of in the running. Key is kind of in the running. And Kakame and Flair, top 20 players, so those aren't awful. And then beyond that, we have Tiger with a PR win on Dash and a PR win on me. He recently switched to Puff, as we just talked about, so not sure how that's going to pan out, but his losses aren't bad enough to completely disqualify him right now. It would be very impressive if he gets PR this season after switching to Puff, so we'll have to sort of wait on that and see how that turns out. But the possibility is there. We have Chi with not enough PR wins and kind of a lot of unranked losses, but it's still in the neighborhood of Time Bones and Sidward, where if Chi just went off and got 3 or 4 PR wins, again, he could be in tension for kind of the lower end if there's not a lot of other players with strong resumes. And then we have Key and Papa Squat, who don't really have enough data, so they would have to attend more to really say for sure. But Papa Squat has 2 wins on Dash. Key has 2 wins on Time Bones and a Sidward win. And this has kind of been a rising star this season. He's done pretty well at everything he's attended except Eclipse, where he had sort of a rough bracket. But that's 8 players kind of vying for how many spots? Sort of vying for 3 spots right now. If I didn't mention someone, doesn't mean they're totally out of the running. Again, all you got to do is get PR wins and not have tons of unranked losses. And if you already have a lot of unranked losses and you say to yourself, well, there's no way I can do it this season, my record's just too bad, keep in mind that if you attend a lot of events, we're going to put a little more weight on the end of the season than the beginning, because recency does matter. And if you had some bad losses at your first 2 or 3 tournaments, but then you kept attending stuff and got PR wins and cleaned it up, that will look a lot better than if you just went to 4 tournaments at the beginning of the season, didn't really lose to anyone bad, kind of got a few PR wins, and then sort of just, sat on your haunches. So attendance does matter. There is definitely a strategy of attending the minimum number of events to minimize your bad losses and keep your record as clean as possible. But at the end of the day, if we're looking at someone like that versus someone that went to 12 events and has a similar ratio, we're always going to give it to the person that attended more. So go out and compete if you still think you're in the hunt for this. Anything you guys wanted to say about that? Any thoughts, comments, observations?
I'm glad that that's the rule in general, because it's so lame to just kind of sit there and be like, oh, I got 3 wins, I'm not going to go anything else. I'm glad that there's such an emphasis on being able to attend tournaments.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't want to discourage attendance for any reason,
For sure.
as far as the PR goes. So yes, there's always going to be, like, it's the last tournament or 2 of the season and someone's on the fence and they skip out because they don't want to risk getting 2 unranked losses. Nothing can really be done about that. But as far as like a bigger picture for the whole season, definitely want to encourage people to go to stuff, and we will be more lenient with people's bad losses if they have been attending events. So really, attendance can never hurt you. If it's that close at the very end where you're kind of on the fence, that's maybe the one case where it could. But tournaments are opportunities for PR wins, really, is how you have to look at it. Especially if you're not a former PR player and you're trying to get on for the first time, you really have to look at it as you're the underdog gunning for the spot, and it's on you to win sets. You can't think of it defensively like, well, I have to just minimize my losses and beat everyone worse than me and then try to do as good as I can against better players. It's really kind of the PR wins that do more for people rather than not having unranked losses.
Which really shows from this most recent PR, like a Time Bones and Sid.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, unranked losses, yes, are never good, but especially if you attend a lot of tournaments, it's more kind of about your ratio of good wins to bad losses, and attendance will, be sort of a tiebreaker in your favor. So yeah, you should go to stuff.
One question before you finish this little part up here. Do you have any predictions for someone that's going to rise or even fall throughout the end of the season here? It could be someone that's already you have listed on the PR or someone that's not on the PR yet. Any just kind of bold predictions, any hot takes?
Well, I think that the sort of rising stars they're like Arcadian top 8 level, and I don't think that they're going to get good enough results this season to really get PR'd. So this is, the people that we seem to talk about on this podcast constantly because of how they do at locals. Key, Lamb, Prometheus, sort of these types of players. I think they're on the trajectory to get here. I just don't think it's going to happen this season. What we kind of have in NC right now is there's you and Mike. There's kind of a gap between the sort of next level of the PR, Safe, Tylenol, GCS, Zasa, Dash, arguably me, David. And then there's kind of another gap from there to like what you would consider the mid-level of NC. And so jumping through that gap is kind of difficult because there aren't stepping stones along the way. As far as like shifts within kind of that second tier below you and Mike, honestly, anything can happen. I feel like the players I listed can all beat each other, can all lose to each other. So I have no idea how that's going to shake up. But I don't really see any mid-level contenders really putting themselves in that tier this season. Maybe they can get PR just because it doesn't look like there's going to be 10 really strong players right now because we've had some inactivity and Alex moving out of state. But I feel like this is kind of setting the stage for the fall. I think in the fall, once a lot of people are back in school and there's sort of more weekend events that draw better attendance, that we might see some of these players making that jump. But for now, it's kind of just setting up for that, in my opinion.
Okay. I see GCS rising.
You do?
I do.
You think... so he was 4 this season?
Mm-hmm.
You think he'll take the...
No, I'm talking about from what you have currently. I think he'll be 4. If I got to guess, I think he's going to be 4 or 5. Not anything against you, but I just see him now that he's back in Raleigh. I think he'll get some good wins.
I could see that. It seems like he's done really well against me the last few sets we've played. So that's something I definitely need to work on. But if we played, tomorrow, I would give the edge to him for sure. I think for him, it's really going to be you and the Foxes as far as like his big competition, because he seems to pretty solidly beat everyone else below that tier. I know had struggled against Dash and Zasa recently, but luckily for him, those are the 2 players that are going to be inactive while he's back in Raleigh. So it's just going to come down to a lot of Falcon Fox sets. I don't see him being lower than top 5, if I'm being honest. He's just got to attend some stuff and get some data. Also, I completely forgot to mention Kaon is moving back here. Eventually.
I cannot wait.
I don't know the exact date, but like he's coming here for school, so
It'll be within the month.
yeah. So maybe we'll see him
man.
at some locals.
I'm
He
so
could
pumped.
He could totally shake this whole list up just by beating everybody and making their one less PR spot available, which will probably happen. It's just gonna be a matter of how soon he gets here. And again, this is something that we'll probably have to discuss for the panel, but honestly, I think that is something to consider as far as when to cut this season off, because that's a pretty big meta shift. Maybe not for most of NC, but for like the PR level players, having someone that is in the Mike Sharks tier of skill just kind of showing up really changes a lot of the dynamic, I think. So we'll have to discuss that. We'll have to see if when he gets here, but should make for an interesting next season.
For sure.
This one has unfortunately been more competitive than the last one, but at the same time, because of sort of that skill gap between the middle of the PR and then sort of mid-level NC, we haven't seen a lot of sets dropped to lower level players.
I think it's a competitive season just within the tiers.
Absolutely.
So
the mid-level is super competitive right now.
And I think that the top is too. Like the really like right now 2 through like 6 is very close.
Yeah. I would say so. So yeah, that's basically where stuff stands right now. don't know how much longer the season is, but it's been about 2 months, and I don't think we've really done a season longer than 4 recently. So, kind of worst case scenario, end of September, but possibly a lot sooner than that. We might just make an executive decision to realign stuff for when K-On gets here, or when school starts in the fall and the tournament landscape kind of changes a bit. So, yeah. I guess we can move on to our next segment.
Okay, let's do it.
Alright, welcome to the random discussion segment where we just find something random to talk about that happens to interest us and is hopefully related to Melee or the scene, but sometimes, well, probably not. Anyway, this week we sent out a survey, and our goal was to sort of answer the high-level question, what incentivizes you to come to a tournament? So first off, I just want to quickly thank everyone who answered the survey. We got 30 responses, which is way more than I was expecting. And I kind of feel bad that we're not going to get the time. We're not going to have the time to talk about all of those responses individually. So if we don't mention your response specifically, we still did read it, and we still really do appreciate the feedback. So specifically, the people who answered, who I want to thank: Dash, Pelipper, someone who calls themselves Legacy. I think that might just mean someone who's a Legacy player. Roma, Chi, J Willie, Matt, Timebones, Tylenol, Veli, Nibby, Ryuda, Sewer Rat, Daniel Z, Don Ross, Shredman, and then also a ton of people who responded anonymously. Thank you guys so much again. So I guess before we start going into the answers, we can just quickly review what the questions on the survey were. So first, just to get some reference point for who was answering, we just quickly asked how many tournaments each person attends, and also roughly what their rank was. And then we had questions about, does $5 versus $10 entry fee matter to you for a Premier tournament? How many locals or Premier tournaments would you be willing to attend? Or at what rate are you willing to attend them? Does having teams or having a stream setup make a local more attractive to you? And what else can a weekly do to make you attend it more consistently? We asked for some good memories of tournaments and why you felt those tournaments specifically led to good memories. We asked if there's anything that dissuaded you from entering a tournament. And then we also have a few suggestions for discussion points that weren't on the survey, which we'll get to at the end. So I guess we could just sort of go down the list. So the first thing was $5 versus $10 venue fee for these Premier tournaments on the weekends. So what seemed to be the case was most people were actually pretty okay with paying $10 tournaments. There's a lot of sentiment of, this money is going towards supporting the community, towards supporting good venues. These $10 tournaments are on weekends, and the TOs often try to put in the effort to make the tournament experience justify the extra costs. One thing that she noted was it is important for our scene to have these sort of high prestige events that are sort of the equivalents of like super majors except on a smaller scale for NC.
I think that's super important, by the way, that like not all tournaments carry the same weight in terms of sort of what the results signify for PR purposes, I guess. So having $10 venue tournaments kind of, the level of competition is going to be higher, and it just feels more significant to get a good win at a big tournament like that versus at a 20-man local.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that completely. I think the next point also is very important. Roma mentioned that if he goes to a $10 tournament, it's possible that he might not go to the next $5 tournament, especially if it's happening in the next week. We saw a very good example of that this couple weeks ago with Eclipse. The following ECG, the next couple days later, I think had like 20 entrants, 18, something like that. Much smaller than the norm, and I think that's something that we do see a lot with that.
Yeah.
So it is important to point out that not everyone was completely in favor of paying $10. So we had some anonymous responders who said one of them, financial reasons are the biggest reason they don't enter. So a $10 tournament is kind of a strain, and it might be the reason they don't go to that tournament. And someone else pointed out that if you pay $10 and then you go O2, then that's kind of disheartening because you could have just gone to a weekly and also gone O2. I think this is something that I think a positive trend that we're seeing in NC is that these large weekend tournaments are starting to incorporate things like amateur brackets to make the new player experience more friendly. And I think, sorry, go ahead.
I think amateur brackets are great. I think the kind of big hurdle for TOs though is you don't want to incentivize people to do poorly in main brackets so they can win amateur bracket. But at the same time, I think there should be a prize for whoever wins that. So there have been a few things thrown around by people I've talked to, like you keep the prize a secret so that it's not clear if the incentive to go 0-2 in main bracket so you can win amateur bracket is really there. Stuff like that. But I do think in general that for bigger events, having an amateur bracket is a great thing.
This makes me think of an idea where, like, if you win amateur bracket, you then roll a die and you get that much money. So
So there's RNG involved.
yeah, but also, so, if you win amateur bracket, you might just win $1, and that's not worth sandbagging down into amateur bracket for. On the other hand, depending on how many sides the die has, you could win like 100.
Oh Lord. I just like the you have a prize and you know what it is before the tournament even starts, but you just don't let people know what it is until maybe even say amateur bracket starts.
Yeah, I think that's actually a bit weird. I think
another thing you can do too is just step up and, if someone good goes 0-2, just say, no, you can't enter amateur bracket. You're just going to win it.
Yeah. Unless they I feel like most people, if they actually legitimately went 0-2, that were very good, I don't know if they'd enter amateur bracket, It'd be kind of weird.
There's definitely a bit of a pride thing there too, but it should be pretty obvious that, if I go 0-2 and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to enter amateur bracket, that the TO should just not let me do that because it wouldn't be fair.
Was there a time that Stingers did that? Didn't something like that happen one time, or am I imagining that?
I don't know if it happened with Stingers, but I know that there was some issue around the incentive to go 0-2 to win amateur bracket being better than trying to actually compete.
And I think part of it just comes down to you should have honor as a competitor. I remember one of Zoss's first tournaments was Mid-State Massacre 6, and there was an amateur bracket, and the prizes were actually really generous. So his first place got $40, second place, or no, I think first place got a controller, second place got $40,
Ooh.
Third place got $20.
Goodness.
And I remember Zossa won amateur bracket pretty easily. But I remember after the tournament, he was like, I'd rather have just gone 0-2 in final bracket than have won amateur bracket and made this money. Because, at the end of the day, it's a competition. You're there to do well. I don't know. There's something about just, competitors' integrity that should really be what makes amateur brackets fun.
That's true, too.
I don't think there's too much of a threat of that in NC, where people are going to be doing that. I really don't.
I think if it happens, it'll be really obvious.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start the NC Crime PR.
Ooh, I like it.
But there's also I think other ideas for prizes could be maybe you don't hand out cash, but stuff like, I'll comp your venue fee for this tournament.
Yep.
And that's also good because it encourages you to come out to another tournament.
Yep, exactly. That's a win-win.
Or even just stuff honestly, even so, this will touch on something that we might talk about later. But if top 3 of amateur brackets get streamed, that'd be really nice because that's a lot of players who don't normally make it to stream, getting a chance to have their sets recorded and sets against other people who are roughly around their level.
I've thought about
just
that.
Sets of them getting 6-0 or 6 stocked.
I can agree with that. You just got to find the time to do it. But I do think it's very possible.
Yeah, it's obviously rough because amateur bracket runs in parallel with main bracket, and you want to also get as much of main bracket streamed as possible. But if it were possible to stream amateur bracket, I think that'd be a really nice reward in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so maybe let's move on to the next question we asked. So the next question we asked was about, or it's a group of questions really we'll address, is how often people are willing to attend locals, in particular weekly tournaments, and also what incentivizes people to come to weekly tournaments. So what seemed to be the average response, with a few outliers, was most people are willing to attend maybe 1 to 2 locals a week, and then maybe one premier tournament a month. I think there's a whole discussion to have about oversaturation of locals. I'm not sure if we want to touch on that now, but I think there have been points in NC Melee history where there's definitely some point where Raleigh tried to have 3 locals in a week, and one of those locals just died out because like no one wanted to attend it because there were already 2 other good locals, and
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I think we'll touch on stuff related to that maybe a bit later. So the first thing we should maybe address is stream setups. Most people seem to like stream setups. I mean, there's not really a
Obviously.
downside to having a stream setup. Yeah, so no one's going to respond like, "Oh, I hate stream setups." A point that Nivi made, which is I think really at kind of the core. This goes back to the core issue of how do we make tournaments appealing to new players. Is that if you're a low-level player, it's really hard to get onto stream. So especially weekday tournaments, there's huge time constraints. The venues want to kick us out by a certain point. People have work to go to in the morning, so they don't want to stay too late. So when that happens, you can't really afford to stream losers matches because when you're running a bracket, losers is running twice as slowly as winners, and it's really the bottleneck to the whole thing. So you just want to play losers matches as soon as possible. You don't want anyone waiting on stream. So that sort of means that
we can't afford the time, especially at ECG, to do losers bracket. We just don't. The tournament's already into like 10:30, 10:40, which we're going to talk about also later.
yeah. So while it would be nice if we could like play losers matches on stream, it's just not something that's possible unless you want the tournament to run late, unfortunately. So Tyler, I know you do try to cater your stream a little bit to newer players and try to get them some opportunities to play on stream early on in bracket. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
And, I guess any challenges you faced?
Sure, there's a lot of challenges to that because you kind of have 2 people you're catering to. You have the ones that are at the tournament and the ones that are watching. Sometimes they're actually a pretty equal number of people between those 2, especially at a local. But you want to have a good match that's on the stream. But you also want to have the people that don't get the chance, especially early on in the tournament, because you know they're probably not going to be there at the end of it. So it's kind of a tough way to call because a lot of the times, if it's someone that's never been on stream, likely they're going to play a good player. Like if we're going to have like Bob92 come out and play GCS, that's going to be very difficult for anyone to enjoy. We know how that's going to go. The commentary is probably not going to be very good. And honestly, neither player is going to learn anything even when watching that. There needs to be like a comparable skill between the 2 players for really it to work for anybody. So what was mentioned earlier was a lot of tournaments, they have those like almost pre-round 1 matches, especially if it's an uneven amount of players, where someone like, I don't know, 22 versus 25 might play each other, and then they'll play like number 3. So those are the ones we need to start streaming. A big way to do that is before the tournament is even announced, before the Quit Your Friendly starts, I think the TO needs to make sure they're talking with the stream runner before everything starts. Pick out the matches that are going to happen so they can just go. We can have someone waiting instead of people waiting for the stream setup and then not doing it. Like a lot of the times at ECG, we have people who will sit there waiting for the stream setup and didn't even ask. And then someone else had asked and then they waited like 30 minutes basically and then don't even get to stream. They had to play off stream. There needs to be more of a plan. It's very hard, a lot easier said than done. And I try my best to do that, but it's not always going to happen. But at the beginning of it, when we can get some of those lower level players in, it's much more possible. We just kind of need to get everything set up beforehand. And if you want to be on stream, honestly, talk to me. I can't guarantee it, but I'll do my best to.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just have the TO show the streamer the bracket before they call Quit Your Friendlies, because it's also like if you see the bracket, you can kind of map out. Okay, like this match will probably happen, so we'll probably want that. And it just ends up working out a lot better than kind of once the tournament gets going, a stream match finishes, and maybe there's another good match coming up, but it really often comes down to whoever is literally right there just saying, oh, I can play on stream because I'm ready to go.
Yep, that happens a lot. A lot.
Right. So
Yeah. I feel like it is hard to coordinate between the 2 on the streamer, especially if both of you also entered brackets, because you might not even just be able to talk to each other at the same time. But
I think that once the tournament gains some steam, the streamer can kind of call everything out, but at the beginning they need to work together.
yeah,
yeah.
And near the end, when it's like maybe 7 to 8 people left, to see the time constraints. But otherwise, I think the streamer can kind of pick the matches out pretty well.
yeah. But I think trying to cater to stream towards newer and lower level players is important because your first time playing on stream is a little bit of a magical experience, and
Yes.
now I kind of hate watching my VODs, but I remember the first time I watched one of my VODs, I was like, this is kind of cool. Just having this.
For sure. And yeah, and honestly, even just talking about this, it kind of makes me think the people who are going to the tournaments need to be catered towards more than the people who are watching at home, because they're the
Yes.
ones who've made the efforts to go out. So it's kind of something for myself to keep in mind in that case. It's kind of easy to forget that.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, this is something we actually like.
I
Something
mean,
that people.
especially for locals.
Because
Like-
who cares? The people that are watching, they're just going to be tuning in and hanging out anyway. If they don't get the greatest first match in the world, I don't think they're going to like leave or like hate it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all the R Smash Bros. Players who are like, oh, but your tournament needs to brand itself up with a good stream, so you have to play the matches I want to see on stream. It's like, no, like, you didn't show up and pay however many dollars to go to this venue and are taking time out of your day to be here.
Exactly.
You're not supporting this community effort, really. You're just another Twitch chat user.
But I will say, viewing the streams does help. Please
Yeah, no, it
don't
does,
stop
just-
doing that. But no, I know where you're coming from.
No,
I
this is-
agree.
I think, like, especially on a local level, I think like having a. I think for majors, like every individual Twitch chat person is not as important. I think for locals, it's obviously very different. Where Twitch chat in and of itself is part of the community experience. Like just
Yeah.
talking to people in Twitch chat, viewing like your friends go through these really intense and amazing matches. Yeah, basically it's just summarize like Twitch chat viewers are important, but the people who are there and paying dollar and taking time out of their day to be physically present are really the number one priority. Okay, so maybe we can move on to the next point, which is it's kind of like a gimme, but tournament should be well run is something that people want. So one thing Tylenol pointed out is that if he sees a local and he knows on a weekday it's going to go past 10:30, he's probably just not going to show up. And for weekday tournaments, it's obviously especially important because people have to go to work in the morning, usually the day after. I know some people can handle like going to work on 4 hours of sleep, or if they really need to. I'm not one of those people. I don't think I'm alone in that aspect. Another important point, and this is again talking sort of about catering towards people who aren't at the top level, is that sometimes you go to a local and it takes 1 to 2 hours to play out your bracket when you're not even doing super hot. Like maybe if you go 2-2, that might still be something that takes a lot of time to do when you could have just played friendlies and gotten in way more games.
Yeah, and there's an unfortunate thing that happens with certain numbers of entrants. So I believe like 24 and 48 man brackets, like right in between powers of 2, is that you can't play any losers matches until you play through winners round like 0 and 1 because of how like the pairings work in losers. So sometimes that's just an unfortunate part of how a double elimination bracket has to work. But also I think it's really important for TOs to like actively call losers matches, because usually people find their first match and then they lose, and then they're not aware that like they need to be looking for their next opponent, or maybe there's some downtime so they kind of just start playing friendlies and then forget they have another set.
That's the biggest one. That's the biggest offender in my opinion.
Right.
Also sort of the opposite is people who are in winners, they find out they're playing someone, they just go ahead and sit down when the setup should be used for a losers match instead.
That one's
Right.
hard to control, though. You're not going to get people to be like, no, we're going to wait. That's very difficult to enforce unless you're not, the TO is not in the bracket, honestly. But no, I agree with you there. But that's going to be much harder.
So I'm speaking from my biased NorCal local experience, where Homemade Waffles runs the week they go to, and
Okay.
so it is kind of what you said, where he doesn't actually enter bracket, which is maybe a sacrifice he shouldn't have to make. But for the first like hour or two of the tournament, you do not sit on a TV unless he tells you to go play a match there.
I love that. If I was to run a bigger tournament, I'd have I really like the stream number, or the setup numbers. So you're like, you play at number 2, you play at number 3. I've always been a fan of that, if it's done well.
Yeah, of course, this requires like a lot of effort from the TO, and also means the TO can't enter, which again, like that's not ideal. I mean, if you have like 2 people TOing, maybe then it's possible. But okay, so the other obvious thing is like setups are important, and you should bring setups. That kind of just goes without saying. There's sort of a weird trend of some tournaments will cap the number of setups they give discounts for, and I think that disincentivizes attendance, which I guess there's financial obligations they might have, which might be the reason they do that, but at the same time, it's like I remember at least one tournament where some of the TO said, "I'm not giving discounts past the first X setups," and I knew I was going to show up like right before single start for that tournament because I had personal commitments I had to go to, and so I could have brought a setup to that tournament, but I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to get a discount. I'm already kind of rushing. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I've talked to people at ECG where it was capped one time, and they had a setup in their car, but they're like, I don't feel like getting it. I'm not going to get anything out of it. Not that I'm saying that ECG is wrong for doing that, but that does happen.
Yeah, no, of course. There's ECG in particular, since we're using someone's venue and we have to pay them. There's financial obligations.
Exactly.
And so there's like a tricky balance. It's not like every TO should just give everyone a discount for setups, but it is an issue that needs to. Maybe there's better solutions. Like maybe I don't know, maybe giving a partial discount for setups, but past the first 8 might work. Or
I mean, really, what I think the best solution is the venue just has enough setups as is, and so you don't have to rely on people to bring them. But
this is also
that's like a pretty big investment and kind of hard to do correctly.
And I think that's something maybe university clubs can do, because they also have storage space on campus they can usually keep setups in. But even then, I think you should still, unless you just like have enough setups to line the walls of an entire room, like you should still incentivize people to bring setups. Because again, part of why we want setups is not just so that bracket runs smoothly, but so that people are able to play friendlies if they get out of bracket. It kind of like you might have enough setups to run bracket smoothly, but that might mean that there's no friendly setups until like 2 hours in, and that means that if you're someone who goes O2, you're just standing around the whole time, and that's not great.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike, but I think at least like recent NC events, no setups hasn't really been an issue.
Yeah, no, I think recently this hasn't been an issue. I think it seems like people have been good, given that brackets seem to go fast. I do remember one tournament where I think it was like Waylon just said in a really funny voice, "We only have 5 setups, guys," and it was like a decently large tournament.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
So moving on, these are the next few ones. There's, I think, a bit less. The next few points we want to talk about, there's not as much to talk about. So Time and Zurat both mentioned, having a more spacious venue and not being cramped is nice. This is not something that's entirely under a TO's control, obviously. And like, you don't want to. Usually, the reason that things are cramped is because lots of people are attending, which is a good thing.
Or because it's a logistic nightmare, or people don't know how to do it, such as a tournament that happened last weekend. But that's a topic for another day. People just need to make sure they're, logistically putting their setups and tables in the right places. You can make a lot more room sometimes than there really is.
Oh, okay. That's actually, that's something I hadn't thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Tylenol and Pelipper both mentioned, having strong competition is important. So this is something that's maybe I'd like to hear you guys' perspective on. So my thought on going to tournaments, I'm not someone who's like ever come close to winning a tournament. So my thought is always, if I go to a tournament, I'm going to have good competition. Like whoever I lose to, it's going to be like someone I'd be happy to lose to. That's a valuable thing for me. It's something I'm willing to put money forward for. But for example, Tyler, you've kind of sweep lots of tournaments with high frequency, and sometimes, not to stroke your ego too hard, but sometimes it's not even like the second seed of the tournament is that strong competition.
No,
it's like me or something.
Yeah. Now this was Tylenol, you said, is that right? I'm sorry. I missed which comment this was. I'm sorry.
Tylenol and Pelipper both brought up that having strong competition at a tournament.
Oh,
is a good
I
incentive.
see. Okay. Yeah, it is. My biggest incentive would be being able to be with friends. I know that's cheesy, but I don't want to go to a tournament if I'm not going to enjoy myself. And of course, strong competition is a big part of that, but it's definitely not the only factor.
As we'll see in other responses down the line, that is also a big thing for a lot of people of all skill levels. It's just like their favorite tournaments in hindsight were the ones where they had a good time with their friends. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily like, oh, I got a PR win at this tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I've had tournaments that there's rarely ever an NC tournament where I didn't feel like I in the tournament like that was easy. I don't think I've really ever had that. Usually it's I'm playing against someone that's good and I'm proud of the win at the end of it. So
I do think maybe this matters less for tournaments when it's like the tournament's 10 minutes away from your house, but for this is something we might also talk about later. For attracting people from other cities, it is important to have competition show up because if driving several hours to go to a tournament, I think the good vibes are still going to be important, but chances are you don't hang out. Like I don't hang out with the people in Nashville ever when I was in NC.
Well,
So
and I think this question actually depends a lot on your relative skill level, because I personally remember there was a time period where when I was kind of like a mid-level player, yeah, if there were PR players in attendance, I'd want to go to that event because I'd want a shot at beating them. But if it was a tournament where it was like, the best thing I can do is win this tournament as a 1 seed, and the worst thing I can do is take 2 unranked losses to the 2 and the 3 seed, who have a very realistic chance of beating me, and that I'm not super stoked to play because of the matchup or whatever. And I mean, it would be nice if everyone had the perspective of, well, good competition will help you improve and sort of test you and whatever. But I think it's pretty safe to say that if you have like a lot of PR members there, then it's not going to dissuade anyone from going. The weird kind of middle ground is where it's like a lot of mid-level players that could all lose to each other, where then people might say, in spite of that actually being very competitive, they would kind of say, well, I don't want to lose to so-and-so. I'm not going to drive an hour to get eliminated by this person or whatever. I don't think there's anything that can be done about that, unfortunately. But
yeah, it's sort of a chicken and egg problem where like to breed good competition, you need good competition to come out.
exactly, yeah. So, like strong competition is, and it sort of snowballs, right? Like if I see, Sharks and Tylenol and Safe are going to this event, well, I'm going to go to this event now, and then maybe because I'm going, someone else shows up, and it just kind of takes a little bit to get that started, especially if it's a bigger event that has more build up to it than like a weekly.
Yeah, this goes back to a discussion we had on a previous episode, which is it's important that like if you're going to an event, you confirm and let other people know you're going.
Right, not necessarily by clicking going on Facebook, but somehow.
Yeah, we talked about this beforehand on the podcast,
Yeah.
or on a previous episode.
Yeah, so we won't harp on that too much. But so one thing you brought up actually is matchups. So this is something that I don't think anyone actually responded to the survey talking about this, but this is something that definitely like to me it's kind of actually made tournaments more enjoyable, is having a good spread of characters at the tournament. I remember there was a 2-month period in North Carolina where every tournament, on average, I played 2 Marths. And at a certain point, I was just like, this is just getting really boring. And like, even if I didn't hate this matchup, even if it was just like playing a different matchup over and over, it kind of makes the experience stale. Whereas nowadays, like in NorCal, one of the nice things I look forward to is that I just don't know what matchup's going to play when I go into bracket. And every matchup's kind of exciting for that reason.
That must be nice.
I'm very jealous of that.
Yeah.
Again, not really something you can't like force people to go to tournaments if they play certain characters, which is something I figured I'd point out because it came up. Okay, so maybe the next point, and one of the biggest things probably for why people don't go to tournaments when they don't is proximity.
Right. And with NC in particular, it's kind of like a mid-sized state where everything is sort of at least an hour away from everything else. So actually, I think it's kind of a unique problem here that we have Triangle, Triad, Charlotte, Asheville, Wilmington. And so there's like a lot spread out, but the problem is getting everyone to come to the same event is actually sort of hard. And
yeah.
I mean, carpools are a great way to deal with this, but at the same time, if you live in Wilmington and there's a Triad event, that's like a 3-hour drive, which is a pretty big commitment. Fun. Right. So I'm not sure what the solution to this is other than just having tournaments spread out. So it's not like, everything is in Raleigh all the time.
Yeah,
like,
but again, this is something that's like, it's something you can really organically fix, right? Because
right.
You can't, if you're in Raleigh, you can't decide to hold a tournament in Charlotte. You really don't have that power.
Yeah.
I do think one of the sort of, since most people seem to only really be willing to attend one Premier tournament a month. It also, the whole proximity issue also means that unfortunately, like, one specific region that's not one of these power regions, which is to say Raleigh, can't really hold these big tournaments frequently and hope to get good attendance, per se.
But the thing about that is if you are a good tournament organizer and you put a good product out, I think people will travel for it. An example of this is the Hornets' Nests in Charlotte. Robert Russell did a pretty good job of running those and consistently got attendance from, Triad and the Triangle area because it was known to, like, you knew that you weren't going to be driving 2 hours to have a terrible day.
Yeah. I guess more so what I'm saying is, like, while Charlotte is running this monthly, it's really hard for another region to slot in its own big tournament if it's trying to, because these regions are so well spread out, and you're competing really for these really rare.
Yeah. If you're having to compete, then that's rough. This was like a little bit before I started to get into the scene, so maybe you guys can talk about this more. But the Mad City circuit, I don't know exactly how that all played out, but I thought in principle it was a really good idea to say we're going to have this circuit and we're going to hit all the cities.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, one of the things Dylan said about why he wanted to do that, which I thought was really great, is he wanted to show that you could run a big tournament in any city, and basically it just goes down to what you were saying. Like,
if you provide a good product, people will come out for it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess going back to the original, there's not really much you can do. Card pools are great, and if you can give people rides to the tournament and you don't mind, it's always a nice thing to do. I feel like lots of people who are now really mainstay members of the scene at one point were really reliant on others giving them rides around. I was definitely in that. I'm not a mainstay, but I was definitely in that position a while ago where Graham had to give me rides to basically everything because otherwise I couldn't get anywhere. So you never know who you might be like. You never know what future PR player you might be introducing to the scene by giving car pools, is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
That's right.
Yeah. And carpools, if you get a good group, it's always fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of fun in the car ride there, and then in the car ride back, you just get to complain about all the people you lost to, and it's
it's like a support group.
Right. It's that's sometimes the best part of a tournament is the getting there and getting home. Sometimes.
Okay, so maybe the last thing we could talk about for incentives to come to tournaments is doubles.
Yeah, I was surprised this was on here. I was under the impression the state did not like this format.
I was shocked by this.
But there were a lot of people that said, if there's doubles, I am more likely to attend. And it wasn't just the people that I figured, of course they're going to say that. There's some surprising responses. But yeah, people seem to like showing up for doubles. Obviously, the ideal is to have $5 doubles with best of 3 finals, and best of 5 finals, and if it's big enough, best of 5 losers semis even. But I kind of feel like even if you do best of 3 all the way through, or you have a lower entry fee, it's still it's better than not having doubles, I guess. There's sort of a drop off. If it's $1 per player, I'm probably not going to care, but in general, I think it's better to run doubles if you can with some restrictions than to just not run it at all.
Yeah, for sure. I do think one of the weird things about doubles is that because there are a lot of doubles fanatics, sometimes the doubles tournament will be 8 people, but 6 of those are really good teams, then 2 of those are just kind of people who decide to enter on a whim. And if you're a newer player and you see that bracket, it's kind of intimidating. But I don't know. The problem is sort of the only way to fix that is for more new players to enter and get to play each other more.
Yeah, and the thing about improving at double, because when I started playing teams, which wasn't when I started going to Melee tournaments, it was 6 months later, because it was the same issue. I was like, if I enter doubles, I'm just going to get destroyed. But the thing about this level of play with teams that a lot of people don't realize is the skill gap is not nearly as big as you think it is, and especially compared to singles. It takes a very long time to go from starting to play the game to getting PR wins in singles, but I would say it takes maybe even half that or less to go from not playing doubles to kind of having a chance at top 3 most of the time, especially if you do things like get a static teammate and play with them a lot. So it is disheartening to be kind of entering doubles on a whim and seeing, oh, the top 6 teams are all like they have a PR player on them, or it's a known doubles team that's really good. But I think a lot of people would be surprised at how much easier it is to kind of get to that level of play than like compared to singles, for example. And the best way to do that is you just have to enter and hopefully, like, I think static teammates are huge, especially at low level, but at the very least, like, try to learn something from your sets, try to figure out, why you're getting destroyed, study doubles VODs, all that stuff. But it's just weird to me because most people will always enter singles but say, I'm not good enough to really compete in doubles, when really it's kind of the other way around in terms of how steep the learning curve is.
Yeah. I also think like there's lots of doubles fanatics who would be more than happy to just play doubles friendlies with you at tournaments and
oh yeah, absolutely.
Help you point out things you could be doing better, give you the taste of like what it's like to play some quote unquote high level doubles.
If someone comes up to me at a tournament and is like, hey, you want to play friendlies? Usually I will, but sometimes I'll be like, I'm kind of tired or I don't want to or whatever. If someone ever asks me to play doubles friendlies, like 100% of the time I will do it. Even if I'm kind of burned out, just because like I like the format and for the exact reason that you're mentioning. I think it's just it's like harder to get doubles practice because you got to get 4 people together on a setup at once, which weirdly a hard thing to do. So yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this, I will always, if you want to play doubles with me, against me in friendlies or whatever, I'm always down to do that after a tournament. So.
Okay, so we kind of went on a tangent there.
Yeah.
So that wraps up sort of the incentives to go to local. So maybe we can quickly touch on. So we asked people what tournaments they really had fond memories of and why, and maybe we can quickly touch upon those answers and maybe talk about some of those. So there was a wide variety of answers. So the 3 most common ones were the Moses Kang tournaments. Not as in the 3 most common were Moses Kang 1, Moses Kang 2, and Moses Kang 3. Moses Kang was one of the three most common answers. The reasons people gave was that it was generally well run. It felt like it had a really competitive atmosphere. People like the stream stage, and also people like the Buster brackets.
Moses Kang was great.
Yeah, I love the Moses Kang series.
So the second of the 3 most common answers was tally tournaments. So people felt like the tournaments were generally well run. There was a lot of time and space for friendlies. The tally rooms are really big and really nice. Like the way Dylan/Colin/ I wasn't at Eclipse, so I don't know how the venue was set up there, but I'm assuming it was also pretty good. But those rooms like just generally lend themselves to being really nice tournament environments. And people also, I think, especially for the Raleigh crowd, tally tournaments are tournaments where they know they can go and like hang out with their close friends and just have a good time even outside of brackets.
Yeah, generally pretty well attended. I mean, Moses Kang, I think I don't know about the first one, but 2 and 3 had over 100 entrants.
Yeah, first one also broke 100, I think. So
yeah, and tally tournaments, like not quite that much, but still the 60 to 80 range wasn't super uncommon. Yeah, just really good venues and generally very well run.
Yeah. And then outside these premier tournaments, a lot of people really enjoyed the old TDMLs at Advent Horizon. So one of the big things is that one of the big draws for that tournament was it was cheap and consistent. You could show up without a setup and still only pay $6 to enter brackets. I think also TDML just ran long enough, even independent of it being like a really appealing tournament and just being generally good vibes. It ran long enough that it just accumulated a really steady following, so people knew they could go, and even though it was like a Thursday evening, there would be 40 people, maybe even more. There's that one with 64 people in that really tiny space that was probably a fire hazard.
Oh, absolutely. That was because Kobol was there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And TDML, it was in this weird location that actually kind of got a lot of people to come out that like wouldn't go to ECG.
Which is funny because they're only like 15 minutes difference, but you know.
Right, yeah. Like it was 15 extra minutes for me to go to TDML because I lived in the opposite direction. Well, it was like kind of annoying, but that's not really going to dissuade me.
No.
And I was just always surprised how many people literally only went to TDMLs when like ECG was happening 15 minutes away at a slightly better venue, but comparable.
I mean,
yeah, it's really too bad that we got kicked out of Event Horizon because it did become a pretty good series.
Like a venue that's willing to take $2 that's really nice. Like,
yeah,
it's almost that might as well be free venue at that point.
Right. Yeah. And those were the main answers for good tournaments, or did we have anything else?
Those are the three most common answers. I do want to touch out on some of the other responses just so people don't feel like I'm like shafting them. So Smashville got a shout out because it has a tight knit community, which makes sense. A lot of the Asheville players, it's really hard for them to travel out, so Smashville is probably like the hub in the mountains for Melee. People like Famicom, BMR, and Hornets for sort of similar reasons to why people said they liked MKNT and Tally. Generally good turnout, lots of friendly setups. Tizzles is Tizzles.
Tizzles is kind of weird because like, I mean, yes, legit tournament sets were played there, but that can't be said for every set and bracket. And most of the reason that people had fun there had nothing to do with playing Melee. But I do think that house tournaments like that are good for the community and sort of a non-competitive, non-Melee sense of like, it's a really weird situation that we find ourselves in of like being friends with these people that we're also competing with, and like we want to destroy them in bracket, but we also like them. And sometimes the competitive stuff can get out of hand, and really I think it's important to remember that we're all kind of degenerates playing this weird niche game years after it came out, and having tournaments like Tizzles are really important for that, I think, where people like came from all over the state, which was like from Charlotte and Asheville and stuff, which was incredible to me. But sometimes it's important to just like hang out with other smashers and not have to be at each other's throats.
I agree with that.
Speaking.
Yep.
Also, like, there's some people who I'd consider my friends in the Smash community, but if I think about it, I'd never really hang out with them besides tournament or dinner after tournaments. And that's kind of sad. So something like Tizzles is just really nice to, be able to hang out with these people who are your friends and who you see all the time, but not in this one competitive environment, like you said.
Right.
Okay, so then Sweetheart Scuffle at UNCG also got mentioned because it ran a regional crew side event, which was sort of a nice change of pace.
That was really fun. I wish there were more of those.
I think we might touch on this a bit later, but I think having these 4 fun side events that aren't singles or doubles, I don't know, I think it's refreshing. It's obviously a time constraint, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get good entry for these, because usually people show up to tournaments for singles and maybe doubles, but I think it seemed like everyone who participated in that had a lot of fun.
I feel like the tough thing about side events is like, it's hard to get a good side event because there's so many bad ones. But if you have a good side event, they're extremely memorable. Like that's the thing. Like the fact that people are still remembering a regional crew event from, I think that was like a year and a half ago now.
Yeah,
really says something.
And then of course there's just the last one is the Arcadians, because everyone's always really trying. It's always really interesting to watch and try and guess who's going to win, because it's almost impossible to guess always. So yeah, those are the answers we got. Of course, if your tournament's not on here, that doesn't mean it's bad. We did get some answers that said like, basically every tournament I've gone to, I usually had a good time as long as, I didn't just like do terrible brackets. But these are just some of the highlights, and of course there's lots of people who didn't answer the survey who I'm sure enjoyed lots of tournaments we didn't mention here. So then maybe on the negative side, this might be touching back on some things we already talked about, but some things people said that sort of dissuaded them from entering tournaments or left a sour taste in their mouth. So one was lack of setups and space. Again, we kind of talked about this. As far as space goes, you have the venue you have. There's only so much you can do about that. Setups, ideally, TOs would be able to have a collection of setups they brought to tournaments. And ideally, everyone got venue discount for setups, but sometimes that isn't possible. One answer was, this is maybe something we can have a conversation about, is you see these random tournaments held at random game shops you've never heard of before, and the person posting them is someone you've also never heard of before.
Lord. Yes.
And they all have that same picture of the Melee cast, all lined up,
yeah.
looking to the left.
Yes.
Generally, for good reason, people don't seem to attend those. So I guess here's the question: if someone won't, the thing is, we don't want to push venues. We don't want to push venues that are willing to host events for us away. But at the same time, we don't want to. You can't really ask people to support a tournament that's not good quality. I don't know if there's a good middle ground, unfortunately.
The main thing for me when I'm thinking about going to a tournament is I don't want to have to be fighting against the environment I'm in. Like, I'm already thinking about the competition aspect of entering a Melee tournament. I don't want to have to be fighting to have physical space to exist. I don't want to be fighting to find a setup. I don't want to have to be fighting to figure out what rounds I'm in or that I play because I can't find the bracket and the TO's not doing anything about that. So that's I want to have a tournament organizer that I can trust will not make me, have to suffer through these things. And the thing about random game shops is
The person running the event usually just isn't at all in touch with the Melee community.
Right. And I think that a decent example of when this can be better is at Smash Brews. The guy running that has made at least a minor effort to be in touch with the community. And I think that's really all it takes, because there's plenty of people that will give feedback and instructions on kind of how to run a good event. But it's when the random game shop runs a monthly and you never hear anything other than, okay, it's time for the monthly, tomorrow. No advertising, no feedback about how to make the event better, what went wrong with it. They just kind of...
It's not even clear they're going to run double elimination best of threes.
Yeah, exactly. So, you just want to make your events easy to attend. And there are obviously things like proximity that you have no control over regarding that. But if I see an event where I'm this might be more of a hassle than it's worth, which usually there has to be a lot going for the worth to outweigh the hassle, then I'm just going to say I'm not going to bother.
Okay, and then the last point someone brought up was, sometimes just individuals at a tournament can make the atmosphere unpleasant, and in particular, I think someone else said, people get competitive, and sometimes your emotions in a bracket can get the best of you, and again, not really...
I mean, I totally understand this. There are definitely people that I actively don't like seeing at tournaments, but at the end of the day, if they're a competitor and they're sort of within the extremely loose rules of decorum that we've established as far as not getting banned from events, then you just have to avoid them and not let them bring you down. Yeah, there's just unfortunately not really a lot that can be done about this, and I think it's just one of those things that's on the individual. Don't ruin someone else's tournament experience if you can help it. Don't go out of your way to do that. But maybe easier said than done.
Yeah, like you said, it's not something that people who aren't the person in question have a whole lot of control over, and if they're not explicitly breaking the very loose rules of don't sexually harass people or stuff like that at the venue,
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so I think the last thing, or the second to last thing we want to talk about is you guys gave us some questions about tournaments, or you guys gave us some topics you wanted us to talk about in the segment. Before we get into that, is there anything that we didn't bring up that either of you want to talk about?
I think that covered a pretty good basis, especially for just like locals here.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the gist seems to be advertise your event well, have a good venue space with enough setups, actively try to run the tournament, and then beyond that, it's all kind of out of your control. But if you just show up and do that every time you run an event, you'll sort of build a brand, and people will be willing to come out for stuff you're involved in.
All right. So a few of the mailbag questions we have. So Pelipper is now going to take over Smashville because I believe Absalom, who's the former TO, is moving to Chapel Hill. So we wanted to ask if people from out of Asheville would be incentivized to come if it was a $5 entry instead of a $2 entry. I think the big problem there is that Smashville is on Thursdays and the Geeks Weekly is now on Thursdays. So for everyone east of Greensboro, you're going to have a hard time incentivizing them to come to Asheville instead of Greensboro. And then for everyone in between, I think Geeksboro tends to attract a slightly higher level of talent because, again, it's not just getting Greensboro, but also some places slightly east of Greensboro. So yeah, it's kind of a tough situation to be in.
I know that Smashville, they had a stream recently, right? From what I remember, Safety Man saying, if they can get something like that going and like really start offering some good competition with help with that, they might be able to get away with that. But yeah, I agree. That'd be kind of a hard call to make for $5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that the region is so isolated that that's like a thing they have to decide amongst themselves. Like, do they want to have $5 events for their own scene? Because, yeah, I mean, even like looking at a map right now, to get to Asheville from Charlotte, that's already like a 2-hour drive. And I believe Charlotte to Geeksboro it depends on what part of Charlotte you're coming from, but it's like an hour. So that trade-off is already pretty favorably in Geeksboro's favor. So it's just going to be tough to get people out to Asheville without like sort of a bigger circuit kind of event. So really it's up to their scene. I mean, I think $5, like maybe $4 is sort of the minimum of what I would consider personally to be like a serious event in quotes. That's not to say that lower entry events haven't been super competitive in the past, but I just like it's kind of the standard for a reason in our scene.
Yeah, but maybe locally, like if $2 is what attracts a lot of the Asheville residents to the tournament, and
right,
some of them want to come without $5, then $2 makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and then that's absolutely fine. What is nice, I guess, is now that we have bracket, the requirement for it is not based on entry fee and entrance, but rather the product of these two things. So it's the total prize pot. So if you're routinely getting 12 people, if you charge a $5 entry, then that suddenly becomes bracket eligible versus, whatever the trade-off would be if some people won't enter $5 but would enter $2, but you still can't get over that $60 pot threshold. So however that works out for them.
Yeah, I think that's more or less all we can say. It's really just up to what people in Asheville want.
Yeah, it's just tough being that far out, unfortunately.
Yeah, and also competing with another weekly on the exact same day. So Roma wanted to ask how we might run an Arcadian or Invitational. I think run Arcadian really just boils down to what would we do in terms of like side events, because I think running an Arcadian itself is more or less just, like running any other big tournament, except now the PR players aren't attending.
Well, kind of. I feel like for Arcadian, seating is actually very, very, very important. Because with like normal events, you can kind of just go by whatever our current ranking system is, and it'll work out fine. You deal with regional conflicts or whatever. But for Arcadians, like regional conflicts are a bigger deal, and then also bracket paths matter a lot, just because of how much parity there is for the event by its nature. It's going to be very competitive, and also because like pools are released ahead of time and people like to prepare sort of, as if it were an out of state event where you get to sort of see what your path looks like.
Yeah,
and
I'll let you keep going. But I guess what I'm kind of saying is it's not really. Is there much to say besides just you seed better?
I mean, I guess not, but seeding, what does seeding better mean?
Yeah, exactly. Just seed as well as you can, I guess is the better way to put it, rather.
There's also recency context is super important, I think. So you might have someone like Key who has had pretty good results recently, but isn't super high on bracket because he doesn't have a history of good results, as well as not a lot of tournaments attended. But he's not someone that you would want to seed 4th or 5th in his pool at an Arcadian. Being aware of kind of what the scene is like and who's improving and who's not improving, I think really matters for putting an Arcadian together. Because the worst thing for that is being out of touch and kind of misseeding people so that some people get really easy rides and some people have really hard pools where their 4 or 5 seed is someone like Key.
That's true.
That does kind of just come down to seed better.
Okay, what would you guys run the next Arcadian side event as if you had a choice?
My answer doesn't seem to be very popular, but I've always been a fan of reverse mains bracket.
Ugh.
Ugh.
I don't know. I think that's so much fun, but I guess someone else
Tyler,
likes that.
do you like playing against Ice Climbers as other characters?
Yeah, I think it's actually super fun.
I don't mind.
Sorry.
I don't mind playing against Puff, but I think the main detriment is you literally get to play one character the entire time.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only bad part about it.
I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that, but
I also like Iron Man's too, but that'd be kind of hard to run.
Iron Man are great. Yeah, I would like to see a 5-character Iron Man side event. It is kind of logistically difficult to do. I like the idea of draft crews, where maybe the captains are Spartan players who don't compete on the teams but just draft and coach. Or maybe you just have it only Spartan players as an Arcadian side event or something. There's Around the World. I don't know how people feel about that.
I don't think that's something you do at tournaments. I think that's something you do when it's Friday night and it's 3 a.m. and you're far from mentally stable at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I'd actually just like to see in North Carolina. I'd like to see Arcadian doubles. I don't think that's ever actually happened, and
Yeah, that would be cool.
Top of NC doubles right now is just people who are PR'd for good reason. I think for other scenes, I don't know. And this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Lots of side events aren't actually that great when you sit down and think about them.
Right. I mean, some kind of cruise thing is always going to be pretty good. I like Arcadian doubles. Or even some kind of mixer doubles thing, like Spartan plus Arcadian player.
Yeah, those are fun. I think also part of why, I don't know, my experience with Arcadian side events is they're fun, but then once they're done, I'm kind of okay, well, I kind of wish I hadn't done that because that was a lot of energy I just expended on something that wasn't main brackets.
Right.
And,
so, I mean, they're usually for the PR players, though, right?
They are, which is why I wouldn't even mind a PR only something or other to get them out as well. I know that's a little bit of biased, but
No, I think it is good for PR players to attend the Arcadian, and the side event should incentivize them to come. I think that is important because it makes the whole Arcadian more legitimate, and it's also I kind of have this dumb image of the Arcadians fighting in the Coliseum while the PR royalty sit in the stands.
You are correct. That is a thing.
What it is.
Yep,
it's great.
It's very fun. It's one of my favorite events of the year, even though I don't do anything.
And I can't think of much else. I mean, if for invitationals, there's just issues around. It costs a lot of money to do that. It's hard to get everyone in the same place at the same time.
Yeah,
but,
if anyone's listening who has lots of money to blow on invitationals, let us know, but I don't think that's the case.
I feel like here it had to be an apartment or house invitational. People just come in, you host, stream,
Yeah, but
run a
even
couple
then,
side
like,
events.
thing is, for the Invitational to be both legitimate and also worth the people getting invited to time, you need a prize pot.
Yes,
And if it's an Invitational, you're not putting that prize pot in through entry fee at all.
that's right.
Unless everyone wants to shell out like $50 to enter the Invitational.
You're right.
Yeah, I guess that's about all we have to say about Invitationals. So Nivi asked about what we think about running Smash ladders at locals. For those who don't know, big tournaments like the Big House and I think Genesis has also done it, have run these ladders where you just go on your phone and you queue up online, and then when you're at the top of the queue, they'll pick you and someone else and tell you to play the setup, and you can sort of advance the ranks in ladder, kind of like you would in a game like Hearthstone. I think there have been some locals in other regions that have tried basically the local you play in ladder a lot of the time, and then whoever's at the top of the ladder at the end of some set amount of time moves on to final brackets. It's kind of cute, but I think part of the problem is there's a lot of infrastructure you need as a TO. Second is kind of like double elimination is tried and true for a reason. There's a reason like every Smash tournament runs double eliminations because it's a good format and doesn't have a lot of issues that I think like ladder you sort of run into. Being at the top of the ladder sort of feels very artificial, and ladders aren't necessarily going to. I think right now there isn't the infrastructure for a ladder that pairs people well. I remember at Big House, like I got paired with people who were way better than me or way worse than me at different times.
Or you get paired with the same person 3 times in a row.
Wait, did that happen to you?
Yeah, that happened. I played against one guy 3 times.
Yeah, so that's just not great.
I think the short answer is I love those, but at locals, it's just not really logistically feasible, to be honest.
Yeah,
especially in
and-
North Carolina.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think like it is, if they were, it might be a nice way to get lower level players more playtime. But I think also like we've talked about lots of other ways we can make the local experience better for lower level players that don't involve sort of messing up the sanctity of double elimination. Okay, and then maybe the last point we can touch on before we move to our final topic is tournaments experimenting with alternate rule sets. So this is, I guess, alternate rule sets is kind of vague, but maybe some concrete examples are, for example, when Arduinos and UCF and all these things first came out, at some point, like locals had to be willing to step up and test these. Well, maybe they didn't have to, but for example, Nebs in New York City stepped up and just volunteered to test these things. And we've also seen other experimentations like Royal Flush running 7-minute timers instead of 8-minute timers, just so that the discussion on what should the timer be would not just be a bunch of theory crafting and people could actually see in practice what that looked like. So I don't know, would you guys attend a local if it was running? I guess maybe a better question is what types of experimentations would you be willing to tolerate at your locals, if any?
I would be willing to tolerate experimentation that is within the realm of being discussed as a national change to the rule set. So this includes UCF, Arduino's Frozen Stadium, 7-minute timer, but really beyond that in terms of like, oh, let's legalize a non-legal stage, or let's ban wobbling, or I don't know, ban Puff's back air, whatever else that people are like, I don't like this thing, so I don't want it, or I want to see this thing that no one is talking about actually putting into the rule set. At that point, it just seems pointless. But I agree with you that the local level is kind of the testing ground for actual rule set changes. And so anything that kind of falls under that category, I'm absolutely fine with trying out.
Yeah, I think that more or less echoes my sentiments. Like, if the tournament's going to play with some really wacky rule set that is not ever going to become standard, I don't know why I'd want to go instead of just going to a different tournament at a different point in the week.
Right. Like, it shouldn't be so different from the current rule set that it's kind of a different game.
I mean, there's some obvious exceptions. Like if it's like Smash the Record, it's obviously going to run these weird wacky side events for Prince Stars League. Well, that's because it's it's a very
Right.
large scale charity tournament. Like the
Right.
point isn't to be a competition. And if you're like getting drunk with your friends, you can obviously just run some really dumb events at your house if you want to. But
Like around the world.
Exactly. Okay, so we're sort of segueing onto this, which is we should address. It's not entirely related to the segment, but it is something important to talk about, and does kind of relate to what should locals be doing. Is UCF. So as is controversially becoming well known, Nintendo's not a big fan, and it seems like for whatever reason, national TOs have to sort of step down and start going back to vanilla. At least that's my impression of things.
Yeah.
Maybe someone has, yeah. So of course, our locals are not being held at gunpoint by Nintendo. Not that the national TOs are, but
Are they though?
I guess they might be. You're right, they might be, or not gunpoint, but the equivalent of gunpoint, which is like a large financial
legal-
lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things we can talk about. I think one of the most important things is what should locals be doing? Should locals be running UCF? Should they also go back to vanilla? I guess. Do you, as a competitor, do you have an opinion?
It's tough because, yes, I am trying to attend out-of-state tournaments, and if those out-of-state tournaments do not have UCF, I do not want to be assuming that my controller will dash back and shield drop because I've been playing on UCF at locals, when in fact it won't do that at the national level. However, I think it has to be considered that not everyone going to North Carolina locals cares about attending events out of state. In fact, it's actually a pretty small minority of us that would have this concern that nationals aren't using UCF anymore. And a lot of people are just going to be on board with keeping UCF for the reasons that it was implemented in the first place, which is it levels the playing field. It eliminates the controller lottery, which actually does kind of show up at the local level, believe it or not. Top PR players are going to have money from winning locals that they can spend on a $100 notched controller that shield drops just fine on vanilla, or maybe they get a really good dashback controller because of that, because they have the resources to pay for it. And it really is disheartening being a lower level player and saying, wow, I have to spend 3 figures just to get the equipment to even compete on an even playing field as these other guys. And also, people just like UCF. It just feels better to play on for the most part.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think being PR'd is a big economic equalizer or unequalizer as much as just what your day job is. But yeah, it's part of what's nice about Melee is if you just buy a controller for what will hopefully be like under $50 once Smush comes out. That's more or less all you need to start attending tournaments. It's not like other games, like name a few. Magic's one of the worst offenders, where you need this huge financial investment to even just break in on the entry level.
right.
But without UCF, maybe. I mean, it is also like if you're at a low level, then supposedly that stuff doesn't matter too much. But I think just playing with UCF feels nicer and it's more fun, and it's a
Yeah,
lot.
it does.
You feel better coming out of a game that you lost, knowing that like you lost because you lost, and not because I missed dash back 10 times.
Right.
So what would you think about? I think again, I'm just talking about what my local scene does. What NorCal usually does is, or what NorCal's policy seems to be, is we're running UCF at everything, except for maybe the 1 to 2 weeks before a big out-of-state tournament that isn't running UCF, we run vanilla.
I like that.
That's a good idea. That's
And
the other thing, too. You're not always training for a national.
That's right.
yeah, so I mean, there might be some corner cases where there's this like regional that not everyone's going to go to, that the TOs don't really know what happens, but that might not be running UCF for that reason. But I kind of like that solution for the most part, because again, most people just seem to prefer UCF, but at the same time, it means people get practice at their locals for these out-of-state tournaments.
For NC, I'm in favor of keeping it, and then maybe like the weekend before SmashCon running vanilla. But the thing is like I'm gonna practice on vanilla if I'm going out of state.
I don't practice on UCF ever, actually. I don't see a reason to if I know that I'm going to be traveling out of state, and that UCF only just helps. Like, I'm never going to like play worse because I'm not used to UCF.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. It's kind of much easier to go one direction there, where UCF is a bonus than the other direction where you're reliant on it and suddenly you can't shield drop.
Yeah, so unless you guys have more comments, I think that wraps up everything we wanted to say about UCF, and I guess in this segment more generally.
Yeah, I really hope something gets worked out with Nintendo, because there was some interview that Reggie did.
Oh, that was the worst.
Yeah, where it just based on his response, it was clear he didn't even understand what it was, much less like how important it really is to sort of the long-term health of this game as, equipment deteriorates and we have to deal with what is essentially RNG at points deciding the outcome of high-level tournament sets. So maybe that'll happen. I'm not crossing my fingers for it, but I do think that at the local level, for the most part, it seems to be something people want. So since we're not held at gunpoint by Nintendo, we should probably just keep on with it, with a few exceptions. And yeah, I guess that's all we had for this segment, right?
Okay, yeah, I think so.
All right.
Welcome to the game show segment. In this segment, we have a everlasting battle of wits between Graham and Tyler, where they compete to see who is better at answering the really random and dumb trivia questions I come up with. We're keeping a lifetime tally on the score. Graham currently leads 2.5 to 0.5. So Tyler is kind of on the board, but is trying to secure his first real win. So today's segment, we're going to be listening to some commentary clips. So the way this will go is I have some clips, I'll play them, and then when I play them, for the most part, I'm just going to want you to tell me the names of the two players that are playing while this commentary clip is, or what match did I get this from, basically. You get 1 point if you get both players. I will give you half credit if you only name one of the players correctly. There are two cases where you won't be doing that. I'll get to them when they come up. But one of them is a doubles match, so you'll actually have to name 4 players. The other one is actually just in between matches, so I just want to know what the tournament is.
Cool. This should be fun.
There's 13 clips. The last 2 are actually kind of hard, so I'm going to actually double the point values for them.
Cool.
So there's 15 potential points you can get. And this also means that it should be possible to make a last stop comeback. So if you guys are good to go, shall we hear the first clip?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You just got up smash. And now, happy feet. Wombo combo. That ain't Falco. That ain't Falco. Where you at? Oh my God. Wombo combo. Oh, get your ass whooped.
I should probably mention, old school commentary gets kind of dicey, and if this is probably a bit too late, but if you're like in a public place or have kids around, not that I think most of you do, this might be a good time to either quiet or mute this podcast. Okay, so anyway, hopefully that was not too bad. Also, I forgot to mention, if any of the players' names come up in commentary, I'm censoring it, as
Sure.
you kind of heard. So for this one, this is a doubles match. You should know what this is from. Go ahead and tell me the names of all 4 players in this doubles match.
I didn't know there was a 4th. Okay.
Also, I think these are generally going to get harder. Just heads up. So they're not all as easy as this one. If this one is easy. Which hopefully it is.
It's not. I have
It's
no
not.
idea.
The 4th one, I'm trying really hard to think about who that is. Oh, man. Who died? What character died off the top first? I'm going to be so mad because I'm sure I know this, but I cannot think of the 4th one. I'm just going to throw something out there.
Oh, this is good. Okay. I thought this whole round would be like kind of easy up until the end, but maybe not.
I know my fourth one is not correct, but I think the first three I have are.
Okay, Graham, what was your answer?
I said Zoo, Silent Spectre, SFAT, Mango.
Tyler?
Zoo, Silent Spectre, is it Tang, I think his tag is? I don't know if that's Tang, it's something like that. And I didn't know the fourth one, so I just put Cactuar.
Okay, so Zoo and Silent Spectre were both correct. Silent Spectre's teammate was indeed Tang.
Okay, cool.
Zoo's teammate is Lucky.
Oh, man, I actually did not know that. I thought about it, but I was like, there's no way it's Lucky. And it's not because I'm watching him play right now, but, you know.
It makes sense to remember Lucky, because, you know, he dies at the start of the clip.
Uh-huh.
Rough.
Okay, so Graham is at 0.5 and Tyler is at 0.75. This 0.25 might end up mattering a lot.
Cool.
Wow.
Okay, time for the next one.
Okay.
I'm pocket controller, dog. I'm pocket controller. Forfeit, my nigga. He forfeits. He forfeits. He knows he got.
So this is singles, so I just need the names of the two players.
Yeah, I got this one.
I didn't need the name of the tournament. That was
I had a flex there, even though people probably know it.
Damn it.
You see, I did say last time I was gonna. I didn't explicitly say this, but you know, I did have to let Tyler have his chance at a.
Hey, let's go! Thank you. The old school stuff. I'll take some of that.
This is biased towards old school players.
Also, I know like Graham's not the type to just spam GR Smash vids or anything like that.
Yeah.
No,
see, the thing is, I am known to watch a GR Smash vid or two every so often.
Yeah, whereas like Graham's like, oh, I could be studying VODs instead.
Exactly.
Gotta know your history.
Gotta acknowledge the greats who came before.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Though these two... Yeah, well, anyway, never mind.
Shot in
Okay.
the dark.
Graham, what's your guess?
I said Mango and Shiz.
Tyler, since you want to flex so hard, what's the answer?
It's Mango and Taj.
Oh. That was close.
At Genesis 2, as
Yeah.
Tyler so kindly pointed out to me.
Losers finals.
Damn,
good-
Taj
good-
was in losers
Yeah,
finals of Genesis.
he was. That's why it was such a big deal. He did awesome. Taj is amazing.
He, I think, beat Mango in winners too.
Yeah, he did, I believe. Yeah, and then that's why Mango beat him and like beat him so bad in the run back.
Wow.
Alrighty, this next one not as old, so you know maybe I think it's still before Graham's time, but
You do need that edge guard, and I think you should take me seriously. Because look at the scoreboard now.
Yeah, I got numbers on the.
Yo, did he just walk up slowly and down smash?
He did. He really did, though.
okay, both of you got this one. It was Hacks vs Mango, so no real score changes. But Tyler's at 2.75 now. Graham's at 2.
Graham, were you in the scene when this tournament happened? This was Big House 5? 4? 4. This is Big House
This is
4.
actually before my time.
No, I was not around for this.
I was at Alex's old apartment that eventually I moved into about a year later, but we were so loud that people came downstairs and told us to shut up.
Wow.
Also, I'm interested to see in some of these later ones if you guys like try to listen for the character noises to guess what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
Wait, which one? Money, where's Malphite like this? Oh my god. Forward smash him! Disgrace him!
Yeah,
One of the greatest clips. I love that clip.
See, what's really sad is like the 10 seconds after this clip are just really depressing.
Yeah, they are. They are. Forward smash him. Disgrace him. It's so good.
That like the ending, that screaming there just hurts my ears.
Yeah,
even
I know.
after normalizing, it was really bad.
No, it's a little loud, but I think it's okay. People will know to turn it down a little bit.
All right, Graham, what was your answer?
I said Armada and AMSA with an H.
Tyler?
Mango versus Armada.
It was Mango vs. Armada, and if you listen at the start, you heard both the turnip
The
pole and the side
Fox.
B on the stage.
Yep.
Hmm.
This is when he pulls 2 stitches.
Yeah, he pulls a stitch, gets the shield break, pulls another stitch for the shield break punish.
I feel like I'm gonna get half credit on a lot of these. No one, you never remember the victim.
That's true. That is very true.
Well, the funny thing is that Mango just like shines him twice right after, and he just dies immediately.
Yeah, he dies at like 60% after this fuzziness screaming his lungs off, and it's like back to even.
What
Alrighty.
tournament was that? Do you know?
I actually don't. I really should, because
I feel this had to be either it had to be after or
well,
between Genesis
probably-
1 and 2 or right after 2. I feel like.
it's like a European tournament, right? Because fuzziness.
Oh,
is
fuzziness was
right?
there. That's true. I have to look that up.
Yeah, no, something we can look up afterwards. All right, next clip.
Up tilt, up air. Press 1 if you feel bad.
This one might be my favorite one as a question in this category, or in this game show.
Wow. Well. Can you play that one more? Are we allowed to play that one more time?
I'll allow it if Graham allows it.
It's fine. It's up to you, Graham. I don't care either way.
I'll allow it.
Okay. Thank you. So kind.
Up tilt, up air. Press 1 if you feel bad.
Man.
You're gonna hate me. You're honestly gonna hate me for this one.
I don't know this one.
Okay. Graham, what was your answer?
Hungry Box Mango.
I said left in H box. I also was thinking it could be PP, but I didn't hear any. I feel like I would have heard Falco's up air.
So it was Hungry Box, and if you listen at the end of the clip, you can hear Mango like going woo, but it wasn't Mango.
Oh,
it was Homemade Waffles. Homemade Waffles was actually playing while
Was this the
commentating.
friendlies one where they're at Evo and he's like
I don't know what
crap
tournament was that,
talking
but
him?
Hungry Box, H-Box and Homemade Waffles were playing a best of 5 while both commentating. at
Man,
the
I know
time.
this is friendlies at an Evo. I think it's Evo 2013 or 14. There's a whole GR Smash video about this where he's just crap talking Hungry Box the entire time. It's really funny if you haven't watched it. Hungry Box starts getting really uncomfortable and he tries to start taking it really seriously, and Homemade Waffle just keeps beating him. It's really funny.
It's actually a little bit sad to watch because Hungry Box just got it breaks down.
Why is that sad?
Anyway, okay, so I apologize for the sort of trick question. Quick score update: Tyler's at 4.25 and Graham's at 3. So it's still anyone's game, really. So next one will be slightly less deceiving than the previous one. Let's just say it shouldn't be deceiving at all.
See? He's right near the edge. Oh my god! Destruction! That was emphatic. That was amazing. Mortality. Are you watching?
Classic.
Tyler, you don't get any extra points.
Hey, you don't have to mention anything. I just like to say stuff. I don't even know if that's completely correct though. That second part of what I sent you.
Oh, okay. Graham, what was your answer?
PPMD hacks.
Tyler?
This would be Axe versus Silent Wolf at Evo.
As for Silent Wolf, one of the clues is Axe was sponsored by Mortality at the time, hence the Mortality Are You Watching?
Oh, I didn't
I
even
don't even,
realize
I
that.
didn't know what that is. Thought he was making an existential joke.
Oh, ye gods of death, are you watching the sets? Also, I think, Tyler, I think this was actually EVO 2014.
Was it really? Ah, I think you're
Yeah,
right. You're
this
right.
was
You're right. It is 14.
This is the top 8 where it was like the 5 gods, and then like Spy, Axe, and Silent Wolf.
Because
randomly.
Silent Wolf beat Leffen to make it in top 8.
Yeah. Alrighty, next clip.
We got serious applause. The whole venue. There are literally like 2 friends.
Look at him taking beach notes. Look at Kalamazoo taking
He
beach notes.
literally has his notebook
Whoa, put it
out.
away, put it away.
He's hiding it. He's hiding it.
Kalamazoo looking like cannabis.
Those are
versus
yeah. I was about to
disaster.
say those are not drugs, Kalamazoo. You do not need to be embarrassed for taking notes.
Yeah.
All right, we're on. Oh my God.
That's funny.
That's in his Smash wiki, by the way.
It's so great. He's like, he rose to fame when he was seen taking notes in this set.
That's so
He-
weird.
And then he proceeded to use those notes to good effect to get like 5th at Big House.
But people knew about Kalamazoo before that. Like I
Yeah,
was
he did.
pretty,
It was just-
I was pretty new to the scene, but I even knew who that was.
No, you have to understand, like, Smash Wiki descriptions are just terrible. If it's not just, oh, this person plays this character and is in this state, it's never a good description.
It's always so bad.
Well,
it's so poorly written. Too.
I have just beaten HBox and M2K. I'll forever hold that on my Smash wiki. To whoever wrote that, thank you.
Oh, right, the time they DQ'd out of PM doubles.
Yeah, and then they were replaced by Googly Eye and oh man,
Daredevil?
Daredevil.
no, the Peach,
Oh.
Iori,
Oh,
and me and Alec beat them in Grand, and it looked like we had beaten Hungry Box Armada.
nice. Okay, so Graham, what was your guess?
Is it Armada Leffen?
Tyler?
I also put that. I wasn't sure who the fox was or whatever it was. I just had
This one was
Leffen.
tricky. The fox was actually Mewtwo King.
Okay.
Because you never remember the victim.
Yeah, well, I don't even remember seeing the screen for that. I just remember seeing Kalamazoo hiding his notebook.
Alrighty. So this one is commentary that is not at all related to a set. So I just want to know what tournament it happened at. And Graham, this was a tournament that you were in the scene for.
Hey guys, Scar here. I just wanted to apologize for anything bad I've ever said about Gimmer in the past. His headphones were never uncomfortable, and whenever he didn't bring me water, it was my fault. He works 60 hours at every event, whereas I only work 6. It makes so much more sense that I plan ahead enough to bring my own water than for him to have to fit that into his busy schedule. You're probably wondering, then Scar, why did you say those things about him? Well, have you ever seen the show Hey Arnold? You know how Helga treats Arnold badly because she's in love with him? It's something like that. Although I am not attracted to Gimmer per se, he has an aura that draws me to him. He walked up slowly and down smashed my soul. That's totally something that I use in everyday conversation.
Okay, so there is, just so you know, that was a minute long. There were 2 more minutes to that.
Oh my
I
word.
have no idea.
I don't
I've actually
either.
I've never heard that clip before.
I have heard it, but I don't know where the heck it was.
I do have a good guess though, based on you saying I was in the scene for this, as well as context clues.
Yeah, there's one context clue I'm trying to think of right now. Okay, yeah, I think I have it. I'm gonna take this guess.
Ooh, okay. Graham, what was your guess?
Pound 2016.
Oh man, you're probably right about that. I put SmashCon 2016.
It was, you were both right on the year. It was actually Big House 6.
Oh
Damn it!
man,
Ugh.
I didn't think he would throw that same reference in the same tournament series. We were close though.
There's a part of the clip where he does proceed to just like call out a bunch of other tournaments for not using BGBC as a streamer, which I did cut out. That might have helped, but okay. So that was the last weird one. Everything else is just singles matches where you name the 2 people. So here's the next one.
Yo, can I get an otra vez, though?
Sí, sí. Pero cuando está usando los backers
Los backers, sí, sí, sí.
y está luchando.
Está luchando.
Oof.
Can we do that again, if you don't mind?
Graham, are you down?
Yeah. Why? Wait. Why do I have to consent?
Oh, gentleman's agreement.
No,
but
you know
in the
you have to.
past
You don't have to.
Yo, can I get an otra vez, though?
Sí, sí. Pero cuando está usando los backers
Los backers, sí, sí, sí.
y está luchando.
Está luchando.
Sorry, I cut you off. So the reason I wanted your consent is that like if you listen to the clip carefully, there's some context clues, namely like character noise and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And you do technically have the edge if you heard them the first time, but the other person didn't.
No, but in all the other game shows, we've always been able to replay clips.
Well, yeah, that was because nothing about the clips, like besides nothing about the clips themselves, gave any information. Also, there was only one other clip game show.
Man, this is tough. I thought I knew what it was, but based off the character noises, I don't think I do anymore. I think I know what tournament this is, though. Man. You know what, actually, I'm going to change my answer here. I'm going to take a shot in the dark.
Ooh, okay. Graham, what was your answer?
Said Hungry Box Mewtwo King.
I said PP Javi.
This was Hungrybox. It was versus Leffen at the Apex 2014 Salty.
that was my
boy.
other guess.
I thought this was a Zenith set at first when I heard Prague and D1.
Trying to speak Spanish.
Oh, that actually would have made a lot of sense. That makes so much more sense. I was like, why does he think it's PPMD versus Hobby? But that
yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
All right, score update.
Yeah, what's the score? This is going to be close.
Oh yeah, sorry. It is Tyler's at 5.75 and Graham is at 4.
Oh.
Remember the last
Yeah,
two were
that's
worth
not
2
close.
points each.
Oh! Are these the last two?
No. There's 4 more.
Okay.
The last 2 are worth 2 points each.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of comeback potential.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
this next one, listen very carefully because I think context clues are going to matter a lot here.
Gets a Shogun. What's he gonna throw him? Dude, this is the craziest pit fight. Oh! What?
Yeah. Oh, who was it against?
One more time.
You down, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm good.
Gets a Shogun. What's he gonna throw him? Dude, this is the craziest pit fight. Oh! What?
I wish I could play the rest of the clip after we guess this, because that's like one of my favorite Toph commentary clips.
Okay, Graham, what was your guess?
None. S2J.
Tyler?
So this is Lord, and I think it's versus S2J also. I think it's S2J.
It is Lord SJ, who
Okay.
is at the Falcon round robin at, I think, Kings of Cali, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, where...
I'm probably wrong.
This is the classic moment where Hax like is holding his head or whatever.
Yeah.
Though
Just like-
someone told me that it was because it wasn't what happened. It was because of that happening he lost the tournament or something like that. I remember being told that.
Wait, but it was like, I thought it was part of the Falcon round robin.
It was,
So
but
it was like
he lost the round robin based off of like other factors because Lord won that set or something like that, which is why he held his head.
Oh.
I've heard that before, but I don't know for sure.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. I feel like Hax wouldn't care that much about a round robin
Maybe
side
not.
event. Maybe. Okay, this is the last 1-pointer, and then we'll go on to the 2-pointers.
That's heart. You like to see that stuff. That's heartwarming.
The upset. The double yays.
Win or lose, they're all AAs together.
The upset, but I think I'm the most upset here.
yeah, I think so.
Leffen got the upset.
That man's fuming.
Oh wait, is this a doubles you said?
No,
Or
this is singles.
The singles. Okay, yeah, I'm sticking with my answer then.
I mean, one of these people is fairly clear. It's the other one that's the... Okay, Graham, what was your guess?
Shoot at Mango.
Same.
Okay, so the key context clue is it's the double
Yeah, that's
yes,
what I was asking if it was
And it's-
doubles.
and it's heartwarming.
It's hugs.
No,
isn't it?
it's Axe. Because after
Axe?
Axe lost, he did the Yayas with Chu.
Oh, dang. I don't remember
That's
that
not-
at all.
That's not heartwarming.
I don't disagree, but you know. Okay, these last two I think are really hard, so they're worth 2 points each. Score update is Tyler is at 7.25 and Graham is at 5. So it'll be rough, but Graham can still technically do it. Okay, here's the 2-pointer. The first 2-pointer.
Best, like no one ever was. To catch them is a real test. To train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, changing far and wide. Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon, gotta catch them all. I know it's my destiny. Pokemon, oh, you're my best friend. In a world we must defend. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em. A heart so true. I promise I will love you. You teach me and I'll teach you. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon.
Yeah, you guys thought we were done with Smasher singing songs, but
That
you were
was
wrong.
fun. I like that.
Really, I found that kind of.
Oh, it was terrible. Oh, it was horrendous. But no, that was pretty funny though.
Also, I think so. They were singing really loudly, but I think if you listen really
I was
hard,
trying to.
All right, Graham.
I said Axel Effen.
I said the same thing.
What?
It was actually Kage versus Zeb.
What? I don't remember that set at all.
This is from, I think, the Apex 2015 Salty Sweets.
No,
It's from some
oh
Salty
my
Sweets.
gosh. Okay.
Why is that a salty sweet?
Because they played in like winners finals of pools, and MDZ got 3-0'd, and he thought he could do better. Clearly, he lost 3-1, so he obviously couldn't.
No, that is doing better. Took
I
a
mean,
game.
As long as I just
technically, yeah. That's okay. You guys ready for the or I guess the final
No,
clip?
because I've lost.
it doesn't
now.
matter.
Yeah,
This is my
I
victory
prepared-
lap. This is my victory lap.
I prepared the clip. Don't like. You know how much time I put into preparing this game show, Graham? That
I
you just try to
know.
throw away?
I'm not saying we shouldn't listen to it, but I'm saying I'm not ready for it because
Oh,
I've
okay,
already
that's fair,
been defeated.
That's fair. You know what? I'll make this one worth 100. No, I'm kidding. I should stick to my original point values.
I don't know. I think you should sub in Crunch instead.
Oh my gosh.
Got him.
All right, I'll go ahead and play it in Graham. You get brownie points, which are worth nothing but brownies.
No, I want 2 points if I get it right.
Okay, fine.
Oh, I know this and I can't picture it. I could hear what they were going to say afterwards, but I can't think of what it is. No, it has to be this, right?
Does it?
I think so.
Ooh, okay, Graham, what'd you guess?
I said M2K Shiz.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? That's what I put too.
It is. I think even if you hadn't heard that one, sort of the context clue, if you just remember the visual of what happened, it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
people getting really excited twice
In a row. That's what
post-session.
made me think about it. I was like, I know this sound. Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps up this show. Graham had 7 points, but Tyler had a mean 9.25. So Tyler makes it onto the scoreboard. Well, makes it onto the scoreboard without getting a draw.
Well, this
Lifetime-
comes from 2017.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's no classic commentary clips from 2017. I don't think. Actually, no. The Smash Summon one I think is from 2017. Because
The
Smash Summon
double
wasn't a thing.
yes.
The
What
Smash
about,
Summon
like,
wasn't a
I
thing
don't
until
know.
recently.
Well,
Hungry Box
2016.
at EVO 2016. Hungry Box at GTX. Hungry Box at
Wow, can you not do this all this Hungry Box?
Well,
those are the
what
only
sets
sets
do you
Graham
think?
watches,
Yeah, what
so-
sets do you think I'm watching?
I don't know. Gosh. None versus Lucky.
Apparently. So yeah, Tyler is now at 1.5 points on the lifetime board. So he's catching up to Graham's 2.5. Maybe next week he'll tie it up.
Maybe
We'll have to
you could
see.
just make the next one really hard and make it worth 2 points, but just make sure it's anything before 2016.
I mean, you have to realize I also joined in 2015, so there's only so much I can do
Well,
about
you had
that.
2015, 2016. You got 2 years.
All right, but that concludes another episode of Two Floaties, One Wobbler. As always, I'm Arun. You can find me on Twitter at Guru Ganesh.
I'm Hi-Fi, and you can not find me on Twitter, because Twitter is dumb, but I do have a blog, hi-fi-ssbm.wordpress.com.
And I am Sharks. You can find me on Twitter at Sharks_SSB. On Twitter at on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sharks_SSB. And overall, you can find the podcast. We have a new website that we're hosting from, Podbean. Let me see if I can find here. Podbean.com/2floaties1wobbler. We'll always put the link in every new episode description. At the moment, we're not currently doing SoundCloud because basically the way we had to do SoundCloud is we'd have to get rid of the old episode to put the new one on. If people want to listen to the new episode on SoundCloud every time, I can put it on there. Just shoot me a heads up and let me know if that's something y'all want, or just stick with Podbean. I also have us pending right now on iTunes. It's just waiting for approval. I've got everything set up. I just have to get the yes from iTunes, and we'll be on for the next time. So hopefully we'll have that link up pretty soon. And on YouTube, of course. So pretty much anywhere that you normally listen to a podcast on. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Thanks to both of y'all for being here. And I'm gonna watch this Army versus Hungrybox set once we're off here. So, anyone have anything else to say?
See you guys at SmashCon.
Okay, yeah.
Nice to be there.
See you at SmashCon.
SmashCon.